It's not rich, just very hard clumps. And there's not any root systems. So maybe just to show how hard. So it's really impossible for anything to live in soil like this. It's just really great for making water run across or holding water. Soil is supposed to be a sponge, and when you think about how a sponge is the architecture of it, there's all these holes. And in the earth, it turns into a sponge by the plant's roots that dig down into it, creating the big holes. And then the fungus and the different bacterials and fungi create those smaller little networks, kind of leading the way for the roots that are bigger to break through the hardened earth. But so I'm going to look at these places where the water and the seeds have run across. It's a place that I know is very compressed because the water ran across here and the seeds ran into that lower area. And it's very light in color, so it means it has very little minerals in it or life in it. So I'm just going to kind of smooth it off and put the glass down. And let's see how long that takes. We had mentioned that we had all this rain, and there were areas that the ground was much lower, and water was pooling because the soil was so compressed, even though there was a little plant life in it. So getting the mosquitoes, I needed to have a solution. So a really easy solution is a trough pond. It's normally used in agriculture to feed livestock. There's some very tiny fish called rainbow days or Texas mosquito fish, but they eat 1,000 mosquito larvae a day. I have 2 schools in here of 5. They like to stay in groups of 5. Agriculture is the art or the science of cultivating life. And when we live in the cities, even if it's in a median between 2 roads, it's still agriculture. We should still think about it as agriculture and cultivating life in every place that we can do this. This is where I spread 25 pounds of the pierced prairie seeds. But as soon as I sprinkled the seeds, the next week we had like a month or 2 of consistent rains. So unfortunately, a lot of those seeds probably washed away. It's really, really cush, and you have to dig in deep to see where the soil is. It's very protected. A lot of the plants that I'm seeing are the native plants, and maybe some of them have blown in from the empty lot. When I'll research a plant and I'll look for its ecological value, whether it's a native or a non-native, a lot of them are showing me that they're plants used for remediation. So it's really interesting how nature has this genius way of healing itself if we just get out of the way. And so I've been stopping on my way to my studio and picking up bags of leaves in yards that I've seen that have the indigenous trees. And then I just open them up and cover the bare ground. And that slowly will start breaking down, building a more permeable place for plants to take root. I was able to get Trees for Houston to donate 99 trees. So I'm really listening with my eyes to what the landscape is telling me, and the way it speaks to me is by what it's providing. Even with the plants that I put in, if that's not the right plant for her, it's not going to survive. I feel like it's been nothing short of a miracle to see what happens in Houston from spring till summer. Been really working at slowing the water, spreading the water out so that the more plants can use it and that I can soak more of it up, and then soaking it into the ground, returning it to the water system. I look for plants that did better in moist areas and sunny areas, and would plant that plant in a low area that had sunshine, and plants that did better with drought. For this area, at this point, I've done very little intervention other than seeding. I was really not expecting any indigenous plants at all, but what I'm seeing here is a tremendous amount of giant ragweed, which has a really important ecological value. It supports a lot of birds, bees. The golden finch will use it for food. I've trimmed some of them down because native bees like to nest in stems where the leaves grow out, and that when it hollows out, bees and other creatures will use it as places to nest and to live. Heading into fall, and we're transitioning to a lower energy season for the garden, but we're also coastal prairie here, semi-tropical, and it's still in the 90s. So it's also, in this part of the country, it's also a time for planting. Looking at 1 year, I can stick it in a little bit, but really nothing. It's a really slow way to build the soil, especially when it's dry. But over in this flower bed, a smaller area, I cut the plants that were not indigenous down to the ground, and then I covered them with soaked it and covered them with cardboard, 4 layers of cardboard to smother the plants that I didn't want, and then put a native leaf mold about 4 inches. And it gets sprinkled regularly, and so it's really built the soil a lot faster. This is clean coxcomb, and its leaves are very similar to spinach. I believe it is edible. And it's a volunteer. I've never seen this plant in any of my garden walks or nursery visits or really anywhere. And there's 2 of them that have volunteered here, which it's shady right here now, and it's a plant that needs full sun. So this first year has really been a lot of learning because I don't have this open area. I've got buildings and trees, and the sun moves and shifts, and the trees grow and shift. So it's forever changing and evolving, and what was maybe the plan a year ago, I have to adapt. And so I'm really relying on nature to show me what it needs, and then trying to make decisions based on what I'm seeing.